And I've received a lot of letters all the way from Australia and the United Kingdom. Um, as you know, I'm doing a whole lot of work in the Latino community. Another point that is aspirational for me, just kind of use this platform to kind of break the news. Not so much of breaking the news, but to declare my intention is
When it comes to your book, Botherless Voice, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have gone through the book, and that's me inclusive. Is there something that whenever someone has gone through the book and they approach and they tell you, "Oh, I've gone through your book and this is what I got from the book," is there something that you wish they had gotten from the book but they didn't get? That's like an hidden gem somewhere in the book, and they just haven't tapped into that. And that is because one thing I understand is creators, people, writers like you want people to get some specific form of message, a deep message, and that is why you put it down in the book. But it's almost like some people still don't get it. So when someone tells you that they've gone through your book, is there something that is key in the book that you want them to still get, but you feel like they still haven't gotten it?
well, I think the book did an incredible job on making a powerful case how your story is your superpower. And it showed you with multiple examples how people who at one point didn't embrace their story and went through that vulnerable journey or process of embracing it, and you saw the transformation that happened to them as a result of that. And I think me, particularly as the author, being vulnerable and telling my own immigrant story at the beginning of the chapter, and people can tell when you're vulnerable, when you're honest, when you're authentic. And I think the authenticity just speaks to people so deeply. And I've received a lot of letters all the way from Australia and the United Kingdom. Um, as you know, I'm doing a whole lot of work in the Latino communities now. Even folks in the Latino community saying, "I relate, I resonate with this message. Yes, I have a story to tell, and your book makes me see it that I have a story to tell." So I haven't had a lot of case where people, I wish people would get something they're not getting. My only goal for the book is what the subtitle says: the power of telling your story and defining your identity. And I think I've been able to accomplish that. I've been so much blessed. It is a very easy read. I intentionally didn't make it a huge, voluminous book. I take it straight to the impact. I take cut it to the chase. So it's a very practical tool for anyone considering storytelling. Um, so I think the book kind of makes this case that if you are someone who is struggling with, my story is not important. If you, excuse me, if you're someone who's struggling with, I don't know what story to tell. If you're someone who is thinking about, I want my story to be dramatic, I think you read the book and you realize that my story is enough. I don't have to be someone else's story. My story is all I need. And I believe that book accomplished that. If there's only uh, downside I can say to the book, I would say because my personal story is an immigrant story and it's such a riveting, emotional, powerful story, it kind of gives the book like a minority, immigrant, black type of book. I don't mind that. I'm honored for that, but it's more than that. So
Mm-hmm.
people kind of categorize the book as kind of a black voice, book for minority, book for immigrant stories. Um, but there are multiple stories in the book.
Yeah.
There is this book stories on spiritual, the pastor, the spiritual coach. There's a book of the impact story of the impact investor. There's a story of the creative entrepreneur. There's a story of the fashion psychologist. There are even case studies of brands telling their story. It's not just categorized to one bucket. So I would say that I would say that.
Your film, Good to Great Stories, are you going to be doing a sequel to it?
Yes, I will be doing a sequel to the Good to Great Stories. There's a lot of opportunities on the table. Um, it's hard to tell if it's going to be a direct sequel to that story, but definitely that would not be my final production. So there's a whole lot of opportunities. The intended vision after the production was to replicate the model in other communities across the country, particularly urban community that may not have been on the spotlight. That I remember, I think my film is the only story of that community in Washington, D.C. on such a platform. But how many of those communities across the country? So when you hear of Harlem, there's a whole ton of stories about Harlem since the beginning of time. But there are several Black communities across the country that we don't always hear that story. Um, Another point that is aspirational for me, just kind of use this platform to kind of break the news. Not so much of breaking the news, but to declare my intention is I would love to produce a story about the connection between Africans and American, particularly first generation African immigrants in the United States. As you know, I'm married into the culture, and I see how our cultures is just so beautifully interwoven, but not a lot of the stories are being told. Let me give you one. So in West Africa, we have this jollof wars happening, Nigerian jollof, all of that. But did you know that in the South, there is red rice, which is parallel to the jollof that we have in West Africa? Nobody knows that story. So imagine this distinction or comparison with Nigerian jollof and
Red
South
rice.
America in the red rice. Look at that combination. So, and there's several stories like that we don't know that I really would like to bring to life. Lastly, when you look at the cultural practices, in America, there's a concept of baby shower. In Nigeria, we have the concept of naming ceremonies. And I think there's so many things we can teach each other. And I thought both are beautiful. When you meet an African person, they tell you the meaning of their names. I think there's a cultures that we can export here too. And there's so many resiliency in the African American story that can actually help us with the state of our politics in many African countries. So I think we have to crisscross, those wisdom, cultural practice, and experiences. We have to do it in storytelling. So that's my next task in story production.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that.